So let's dive into a really fascinating moment in legal history, the day the European Union decided that a simple digital file could have the exact same legal power as a heavy printed book. Now that might sound like a small technical tweak, but as we're about to see, the ripple effects are huge. This explainer is based on the works of Professor Kiskinov. You see, the journey to making the EU's official journal legally binding in its electronic form wasn't just about upgrading technology. No, it was this incredible mix of deep legal thinking, new tech, and just plain practical need. This is really a story about how the law itself learns to adapt to our digital world, a change that, believe it or not, affects every single person and business in the Union. All right, here's our map for this journey. We're going to start with the big problem, what I like to call the paper paradox. Then we'll look at what really pushed for a digital fix. After that, we'll see how that solution was put into place. And this is the interesting part, the brand new problem it created. And finally, we'll step back and think about what all of this means for the future of law. So before July 1st, 2013, the European Union was in a really strange spot. It had two different versions of its official journal, the place where all of its laws and official acts are published for the world to see.
And here's where the paradox comes in. On one side, you had the old-school paper version. It was slow, a pain to deal with physically, and you had to pay for a subscription. But, and this is the kicker, it was the only version that was legally binding. On the other side, you had the online version. It was free, you could get it instantly, and you could search it. Everyone used it, but it had zero legal authority. It was just for show, legally speaking.
This quote really drives home what that meant for real people. If you were a citizen or a lawyer or a business that needed to follow EU law, that handy online version just wouldn't cut it in court. You were legally required to find the official, physical, paper copy. This wasn't just a minor hassle. It was a real barrier between people and the laws that govern them.
Obviously, that kind of system couldn't last. The pressure to get with the times was building, and it was being driven by a few really important factors.
The European Commission basically built its case for this change on 4 pillars. First, a big court case had shown just how much legal confusion was created by having laws online that weren't official. Second, the practical and economic reasons were just a no-brainer. It's faster and cheaper. Third, it fit perfectly with the EU's big picture goal, the digital agenda for Europe. And finally, it was just a key part of modernizing government itself. And let's just talk about the economics for a second. If you wanted a full subscription to the paper version, the one that actually counted in court, it would set you back 1,400 euros every single year.
Now, get this. The one-time cost to build the entire system to make the digital version authentic and secure, just 38,000 euros. That's it. When you weigh a recurring fee of 1,400 euros for every single subscriber against a tiny one-time cost for a system that everyone could use for free, well, the argument for change became pretty hard to ignore.
So, with the case made so clearly, the wheels of government started turning, and it all led to a truly game-changing new regulation.
And things moved surprisingly fast, with almost everyone on board. The proposal hit the table in 2011, the Parliament passed it with a massive majority in 2012, and by July 1st, 2013, it was the law of the land. The electronic official journal was now officially the real deal.
Okay, but how do you actually prove a digital file is authentic and hasn't been tampered with? The solution was pretty clever, and it works in 3 steps. First, the journal gets published on the official website. Second, it's sealed with a special electronic signature. Think of it as a digital lock that proves it's the original. And third, and this is the key part for public trust, the key to that lock, the certificate, is made public. So anyone, anywhere, can check for themselves that the document is legit.
So, you'd think problem solved, right? The paper paradox is gone, everyone's happy. Well, not quite. In fixing one problem, the EU accidentally shined a spotlight on a new, much trickier one, the problem of consolidation. So what on earth is a consolidated act? Okay, imagine a law is passed in 2014. Then it gets changed a little in 2016, then again in 2018, and again in 2021. Instead of making you read 4 different documents to figure out the current rules, a consolidated version just mushes all those changes together into one single up-to-date document. It's super useful, but it's got a big catch. This table lays out the new problem perfectly. The laws published in the official journal are authentic. They are the law, but they're published in order, by date, like a diary.
The consolidated versions are way more user-friendly because they show you the law as it stands today. But they are not legally authentic. They're just for reference. And this is the point you really need to get. Even if you take a law that was published authentically online, and the EU's own official office creates an updated, consolidated version, that new, easy-to-read document has no legal power. So here we are again, with this split between what's practical for people to use and what's officially the law. This all brings us to the final and maybe the most important part of the story. What does this mean for the future? What are the big questions we now have to face about what law even is in a digital world? First off, it's important to realize this isn't just an EU problem. If you look across Europe, the legal status of official online laws is split almost right down the middle. About half the countries have made their electronic versions official, and the other half haven't. This challenge of digital authenticity is everywhere. And this leaves us with some really big, thorny questions that still don't have answers. How do we make those easy-to-read, up-to-date, consolidated laws legally binding? How do we make sure people don't accidentally base a major decision on an unofficial text? And to get a bit philosophical, what does it even mean for a law to be real when it's just code on a server somewhere? Look, the EU's switch to an authentic electronic journal was a massive, revolutionary step forward. It fixed a huge problem of access and cost. But what it really did was open our eyes to the next big challenge in digital law. As more and more of our lives move online, the question isn't just about making laws available anymore. The real challenge is making sure the laws we find there are authentically, legally real. And that's the question we all have to grapple with now.